This is Michael Popok. Look at the time. It must be time for Legal AF After Dark. Aileen Cannon, judge, Southern District of Florida. She's in the news again for all the wrong reasons. First, earlier in the week, Donald Trump offered her a job, effectively putting her at the top of the charts for a potential position as Attorney General. Could be a stepping stone to the Supreme Court position if Donald Trump gets anywhere near the White House. At the same time, bolstering her credentials there, he then filed not one but two different filings in court to try to promote her wacko fringe legal analysis that the special counsel should disappear because he was illegitimately, unconstitutionally appointed and funded. What will Judge Chutkan have to say about that in the D.C. election interference case? What will the 11th Circuit have to say about that in the Lago case? Well, if you're interested, listen to Legal AF. Here's a clip. Let's talk about the leak of the presidential transition team memo. Yeah, I don't know if it's really a leak. There's a whole big article about my former boss out there, who's the head of the presidential campaign transition committee, along with Linda McMahon. Yeah, I'm not buying the leak. But apparently, according to reporting, Boris Epstein took over from Michael Cohen as the consigliere, who's been indicted in Arizona, who's an unindicted co-conspirator in the D.C. election interference case, was instrumental in putting together this list of legal principles, and I mean people, not governing norms, who would fill up a Trump set of lawyer positions, from the White House counsel's position all the way through the different attorneys that would head up the different cabinet level and department levels, and of course the apex, the attorney general and deputy attorney generals and things like that. And added after the decision, apparently, by Aileen Cannon to dismiss the 40 felony count indictment of Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago or so. She was added as a candidate for attorney general, apparently number 2. Number 1, maybe Jay Clayton for the Securities and Exchange Commission, although I think he's more likely for the Securities and Exchange Commission again, making her the number 1 candidate. And if it's not her, it's a bunch of other scary, it's like a rogues gallery of ghastly figures who are going to try to suffocate American democracy and the rule of law in the middle of the night and chloroform it if we give them the chance. What did you make from the reporting? What unique things did you pick up that you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, it's as we were talking about before about how important it is to have a judge that is completely neutral and has no agenda and has absolutely all the ethics that you want a judge to have. They have to be above all of this. You have to have confidence in the justice system for it to work, right? It's such an important thing. It's nonpartisan. That's why judges aren't allowed to participate in politics. They're not allowed to donate money. That's why if you ever watch the State of the Union, you'll see the Supreme Court justices sit there and they never stand or clap or smile or show any kind of position on, doesn't matter who is speaking, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. And it's because neutrality and justice is blind, right? That's the phrase, that's the saying. It's without fear or favor, and they have to rise above it and be that person. And of course, Aileen Cannon has shown herself to be nothing but a biased person who doesn't follow the law and instead is doing things on behalf of an individual. And it's just the biggest conflict of interest you can imagine. It not only will it impact obviously this particular case, but it'll impact so much. It'll impact so much about what they do in prosecutions going forward, or pardons, right? Or dismissals going forward, and those recommendations and what happens. And I just think, I have a lot of friends, obviously, who either used to work for the Department of Justice or who currently work for the Department of Justice, whether it's the individual U.S. attorney's offices or Main Justice. And I just can't imagine these individuals are the smartest, best, most ethical, incredible lawyers, right? Like they only hire kind of the best of the best of the best. They're not a bunch of Jeffrey Clarks who really don't seem to fit that mold. And so I can't imagine them working for someone like her. And so it just really terrifies me about the state of our legal system and our justice system. The Department of Justice does so much good work. In addition, they have both a civil division and a criminal division, and they really bring cases to make sure that the rule of law is upheld, and whether it's civil or criminal. And I just can't imagine someone like her at the helm and what would happen, and whether there'd be a mass exodus, or whether there would just be people doing things that are not kind of in line with what someone like her would want. So, it was very disheartening, but not surprising to see the people on the list, that it was the Jeffrey Clarks, right? The guy, remember the guy that was supposed to be, that Trump tried to install as the acting attorney general after he had lost the election, but before he, in those few weeks before he unpeacefully handed over the office, and so he's on the list. And as you said, there's other individuals who are just terrifying who are on the list, and they're in bed with Clarence Thomas and Ginny Thomas, and the lawyers, as you said, Todd Blanche and all the other individuals. Like, it's just it's a who's who of all the people who have really just been loyal to Trump and who serve Trump as opposed to serve justice. I'll never forget Preet Bharara, who was the United States Attorney for the Southern District, who works for the Attorney General, right? Like, so the U.S. attorneys report to the Attorney General, and one of the problems he had with Trump, because he was the Attorney General under Barack Obama, and he was one of the he's one of the United States attorneys that was on the list to remain, because he was very respected and very good when Trump took office, which is not usual. Usually the new president installs their own people. And one of the stories that Preet Bharara talks about publicly, and I've heard him talk about, is how Trump wanted Preet to be loyal to Trump. And Preet said, I don't want to speak to you directly on the phone even. Like, I'm not loyal to a person. I'm loyal to the United States Constitution. But that's what Trump wanted out of somebody, and that's what he expects. And that's not the role of an attorney general or a judge or anyone who has any business in the justice system. And so it's a little terrifying that this is the direction that Trump is taking us in. And look, he's been so open and outward, kind of talking about how they're going to essentially weaponize the justice system against his political enemies and against the media. And the only person who would do that on behalf of Donald Trump would be someone like this. And that was, it's scary. It's scary what is at stake at this election.
Yeah, and you picture this this ghastly scene. You got Attorney General Aileen Cannon, who is barely qualified to be a federal judge, with little or no trial experience. She's only been a judge for the last 3 or 4 years, half of it during COVID. She's not qualified. Her only qualification is she's willing to do the bidding of Donald Trump, her patron. Picture this scene. He wins. Somehow she gets confirmed, and that's not a foregone conclusion. She has to go through a Senate confirmation process, as do all the cabinet members that he would be appointing, directors of the FBI and all of that. And if the Democrats take the Senate or hold the Senate, that would be, I think, rocky at best. But let's say she somehow gets through that. And now Donald Trump gives her the order to fire Jack Smith, who was just before her as a federal judge, fire Jack Smith as special counsel, which is what he will order her to do. And as soon as she's, if not, because it may take 2 or 3 months to get her confirmed, she'll have somebody else do it, I guess. But if she did it, and then also, she would be involved with the pardon process. And this is a person who just a minute ago was supposedly fair and impartial, justice is blind jurist, presiding over the case in which the person that just made her the attorney general was a criminal defendant in front of her. And it's that sort of stink and odor of that stinks to high heaven that the 11th Circuit's going to have to deal with now, and Jack Smith's going to have to deal with as a prosecutor. 11th Circuit's got to deal with it because even though the case has been dismissed from her court, it's still subject to possible remand back to her if they reverse, which is likely her decision, first time in our history, finding that the special counsel was improperly delegated authority under the Constitution and improperly funded. And if they have to return it to somebody. They don't try cases at the 11th Circuit. They only are appellate court. And if they find that reversible error and reinstate the indictment against Donald Trump and all the other people, and Kamala Harris wins, let's say in this scenario, or even before that, because we got months until the inauguration, 2 weeks till the election, but many months until January, then the 11th Circuit now, in order to try to protect the integrity of the criminal justice system and people's perception of the fairness of that system, have to do something about a problem named Aileen Cannon. Because if this is true, and nobody's denied it, by the way, since the leak happened, you don't see the Trumpers coming out and saying that, nobody, Aileen Cannon's silent about it. And so the 11th Circuit's got to say, you got to go, Aileen. You just as you were asked by some of the senior judges in your own district not to take this case originally, you got to go because the appearance of impropriety is overwhelming here. Even if she didn't make the decision to dismiss the indictment in order to curry favor with Donald Trump, it certainly looks to any rational human being like there was that quid pro quo. And so she got to go. So the 11th Circuit can do it on their own. I've said that from the beginning. They have more than enough ammunition, and now with this new information to do it. The question is, does Jack Smith tee it up for them with a filing? Now, I will tell you that the Southern District of Florida, which is the U.S. Attorney's Office that covers Miami and from Fort Pierce down to Miami, they just took a position in the Ralph case, the guy that was the would-be assassin of Donald Trump, maybe on the Mar-a-Lago golf course. The guy that had the gun sticking out of the bush, 2 holes ahead of Trump, out of a bush about Trump. The defense, the public defenders representing him, moved to disqualify Aileen Cannon because of what appears to be her close relationship with Donald Trump, especially having just ruled in his favor. But the U.S. Attorney's Office in Southern District, with I'm sure approval by Main Justice in Washington, said, no, we don't think it's appropriate to remove the judge under those circumstances. And so we got to see now what the special counsel is going to do. Does he stay neutral again, or does he drop the gloves and say, you know what? If she's on the short list for the attorney general, then she can't preside over this case any longer. That's a disqualifying event. So we're going to see how that all plays out. What do you think is going to happen with the 11th Circuit and removing Aileen Cannon?
So, it's so tricky because I keep trying to game this out in my head. If Trump wins, right, he kind of wants the 11th Circuit to reverse her, because otherwise if he wins, he's going to have to dismiss the Hunter Biden case that was also brought by a special counsel. He's going to have, which he's not going to want. And so all he has to do is dismiss these cases, right? Whether the 11th Circuit sends it back, if he wins, whether the 11th Circuit sends it back to her or recuses her, it doesn't matter. He's going to order her, if she's the attorney general or whoever his attorney general is, to dismiss these cases and pardon himself and pardon the unindicted co-conspirators in the January 6th case. I mean, and I don't think he actually wants the law to be that special counsels are not properly, don't forget, the reason she dismissed the case wasn't because he's innocent, wasn't because he was allowed to hold the documents, wasn't any of that. It was, she found that special counsels aren't valid, right? You're not allowed to do that the law doesn't allow that. And I don't know that Donald Trump actually wants that to be the state of the law. So it's weird to, I don't think he has an ultimate plan. I do think he just is trying to bat things around and game it out so he can ultimately win and just make hay out of all of this. But I think they're going to have to ultimately reverse this case, the 11th Circuit, because of course special counsels for all the reasons we've talked about over and over again here on the show, and the statutes that we've gone over, and the precedent and the history. Of course, it is perfectly legitimate to appoint a special counsel. It was legitimate here. There's nothing wrong with appointing a special counsel. In fact, the law actually specifically allows it, and Congress authorized funding for it. I mean, it couldn't be clearer, actually, despite what Clarence Thomas has said to Aileen Cannon, and despite what she said. So I think it's clear they're going to reverse it, and I could see them removing her based on her history of just crazy, lawless decisions. And as you said, now this just smells bad. And as many courts have held, the appearance of impropriety is just as bad as actual impropriety, because it undermines confidence in the justice system, which we can't do.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I mean, I'm not sure that it automatically leads to the dismissal of other special counsel things, but I think the 11th Circuit's going to have to take a position about it. I think they were already leaning towards reassigning her. I think they will reassign her if they decide to reinstate the indictment in Mar-a-Lago and on their findings. We're going to know more as we continue before the election. Pardon me. But again, it just shows you how important. There's so many things that are on the ballot besides people running for office in November. The Supreme Court is on the ballot. The rule of law is on the ballot. A woman's right to choose is on the ballot. What kind of country we live in is on the ballot. And those things may not fit neatly on a bumper sticker or a T-shirt or in a mean tweet or meme, but they're important. And I know our audience gets it, and they're doing everything they can to help make sure what we're talking about in the future is a Madam President-elect Kamala Harris and her transition team, and not have to go through all of these game strategy and gaming out what could happen if Donald Trump gets back in. That was Legal AF, the podcast. We do that Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and we do a live recording here on this YouTube channel for MeidasTouch, and then you can pick it up on audio podcast platforms of your choice. Are you geeking out on all things Legal AF? I got news for you. We got a new channel, Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Legal AF MTN for MeidasTouch Network is our handle, our call sign over on YouTube. And you can get everything there. The podcast is there. The hot takes are there. I'm doing work regularly 5-6 times a day at the intersection of law and politics, all on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. But Legal AF, the podcast, which is what you just watched, is Wednesdays, Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And then pick us up on all audio podcast platforms of your choice. If you're already part of our audience, we really appreciate you being there. Take that clip and send it off. Try it again. Take that clip and send it off to people in your life and ask them to join our audience. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that was Legal AF. And I'm personally inviting you to join us for our journey as part of your own. So until our next podcast, until my next anything Legal AF related, I'm Michael Popok, and I'm reporting. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.